What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you my Boss Rush Chieftain Explode Firestorm build. Let's go! So, this build is pretty niche. I was just trying to create a fun Explodey shield charger that I could do Boss Rush with. The goal being killing city square bosses that also have a Harbinger around them. The idea is using Chieftain Explode, you're basically going to be able to one-shot the bosses because there's going to be tons of monsters around them, and when those monsters explode, they deal AoE damage based on 500% of their life. This build can do other content, but if you really want to do anything outside of juicy mapping, you're going to want to have a Vol Breach, and Vol Breach is pretty expensive. What Vol Breach does is it allows you to generate monsters on the screen that don't provide items or XP, but that you can blow up that will then kill the bosses. So if you want to do like destructive play, Guardian farming, get a Vol Breach, you pop it when you get to the boss, and you easily one-shot any boss in the game. This build single target is really bad. It's important to know that going in. The goal is to blow up the bosses using other enemies that are around them, not to single target them down. They only got a couple million damage, but the clear is phenomenal between the Righteous Fire, which on a 4-link actually ended up being pretty awesome. Firestorm of Meteors is not the fastest cast time, but it's really fun to use. This build is not a game breaker. It's not the best build I've ever played, but it was super effective for what I wanted it to do, which was shield charge through a map to get to the boss, and then blow it up in one shot, kill the Harby, and leave. Did many hundreds of city square boss rushes with Harbinger. If you want to check out that strategy, I have a video on it from this league, and I also have a video on it from last league, so I'll link those in the description. But the build is not the cheapest thing ever. I built it to be pretty tanky because when I boss rush, I like to level, because you actually can level pretty well while boss rushing. So it's pretty tanky. It's got 80-something% fizz taken as. It's got 90 max res. It's a chieftain, right? So it's got the basic chieftain defensive layers. And honestly, it's not super fine-tuned. You could definitely make this build better, but it did exactly what I wanted it to do, and a lot of people have been asking me about it, so I'm going to share it with you today. I'm very sick still somehow, so I'm going to try to keep this relatively short. So we'll dive in and talk about how the build works and get you playing if you want to. Okay, so here we have Arrow Armageddon D's Nuts, level 94. Now, this originally was an Armageddon brand build, but what I discovered is that Firestorm of Meteors is basically the same exact skill in every way, but it's a little bit faster to get your damage out. Another one to the void. Gyra, rest in peace. So we were using Armageddon brand of Volatility, which is the brand that places a brand down and then it fires one cast of a meteor, and it takes a little bit of time to put the brand down, have the brand attach, and then fire the meteor. And ultimately, it just didn't feel that snappy. Firestorm of Meteors is just a slightly faster version of the exact same skill. Pretty high damage, pretty good effectiveness, and pretty decent for ignites. Now, again, this is not a high damage build. The goal is to cast this and blow up the screen, not be able to, necessarily single target. But one of the single target solutions that we have that is really fun is the Triumvirate Authority with a Vol Flame Blast in it. Triumvirate Authority is a ring from, I think it's Ziri, that can do a lot of cool things with Vol skills. So most importantly, number one, socketed Vol skills deal 150% more damage. That's like adding 4 links to it. And then we also have socketed Vol skills require 30% less souls per use. So we only need around 20 souls to get it going. And then we have socketed Vol skills have 30% reduced soul gain prevention duration, which takes us from 3 seconds to 2.1. So basically, if you hit a boss with this, within 2 seconds, it's already starting to gain souls again. And because that duration is so short, you can hit a boss and the ignite duration lasts longer than the soul gain prevention, which means sometimes on a boss, you can actually permanently keep up a Vol Flame Blast, which is really cool. Also, while you're mapping, pretty much any rare you come up against that's juicy, you can drop this on it. And I think the damage is somewhere around 10 million ignite DPS if you hit them with the smallest circle. It just feels really nice. And for a ring slot, it's a really cool addition to a build that needs some single target. So I'll just go over like the basics here. We have a 40% fizz taken as chest here. We get 17 on the helmet. I was using Taste of Hate. I ended up dropping it for Aurea's End. I didn't need the tankiness. I wanted some more Explode. You don't need this this flask, but it does add some fun to blasting through the maps and just blowing more things up. Because we have global ignite chance, when we get a fire explode on this, it will blow up. You can also get a charm that has all damage can ignite, which makes it so all of your Aurea's explosions ignite. I didn't feel that was necessary, but you can do that. God, a bunch of people going to the void today. One of the nice things about Chieftain is you don't need to get too much resistance on your gear, just basically chaos res. So we have chaos res and some fire res on different gear pieces, life, strength, fizz taken as, those are the most important things. Makes gearing not too expensive. I originally had a Defiance of Destiny on this, but again, I was way overkill with how tanky I was. So I switched over to this amulet. This was 1 divine. Just get +1 and some dot multi. Cast speed makes this feel a lot better. You really only need to cast basically once per screen. If you're casting more than that, your explodes are not doing enough work. Dawnbreaker, something really cool about Dawnbreaker, you get fizz taken as fire built into the item. You can get up to 20%. You can also get up to 8% as a corruption. Now, usually what will happen is if you find a fizz taken as implicit on one of these with a perfect base, it's going to be really, really expensive. But you can get a less than perfect base. We have 16% fizz taken as fire here, with a perfect 8% fizz taken as cold implicit. So that's 24% total, and this was only 2 divines. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a pretty good amount of fizz taken as. If you're looking for a perfect one, obviously it's going to be many, many divines. But this build does not need it. If you really want more fizz taken as, using a Taste of Hate is going to get you almost to 100%. I think we're at 81% without it. But for a boss rusher, you don't need to be much tankier. Our 6th link, we are using Swift Affliction. Again, we should have Awaken here. Inspiration. Sadism I use because it is pretty good for damage when you just stand still over and over again and cast. However, I don't know that I recommend using Sadism. You should probably use a different support gem. I would just hop into PoE and see which one is best for you and your setup. Because the problem with Sadism is it requires you to stand still and cast, which requires more mana. And standing still is good for us because we are a chieftain and we are taking Ramako Sun's Light, so we want to be standing still. But the problem is you run out of mana and you have to keep casting because our ignite duration is almost exactly the distance between meteors that land, so you can keep up full uptime of ignite if you keep casting, which is pretty cool. This is a really good multiplier, but ultimately I don't think I'd recommend using it. Awaken burning damage and cruelty. We have decent sized hits with cruelty, so if you go maybe deadly ailments here, then you probably don't want to use cruelty support. So hop into PoE and see which one's the best numbers for your setup. We have an Arcanist brand up here with punishment, a void sphere to pull the enemies closer together so our explosions are more effective, then flame surge as well to get us some more burning ground damage. We use Herald of Ash to help us with overkill prolif, malevolence, and purity of fire. You want to get this up to level 23. That will help you get to 90 max res. Mortal Flesh is whatever. Again, this build is not perfectly optimized, but Mortal Flesh is pretty good. You can get Fire Leech on your gloves because our hits are big enough to make Leech actually do something for us. As you can see, I got rarity on my helmet and my gloves, which was totally on purpose and not an accident from slams, so we are essentially magic finding. So we are Chieftain, Hinakor's Death Fury is the core of our offense, and then Ramako is the other half where we're standing still to do our damage. Obviously, we want to go to Valakos Storm's Embrace for maximum fire, lightning, and cold resistance. We get up to almost 6k life here on a level 94 tree, which is pretty good. It makes our Righteous Fire do a pretty significant amount of damage. We just have a 4 link here. Levels on Righteous Fire doesn't even matter anymore, so that's unfortunate, but the damage from Righteous Fire is good enough where white and often blue packs will explode just from shield charging through them, which makes your clear feel so nice. And then every time you come up to a rare, you throw a meteor at them and you blow up that pack and it feels pretty good to play. I'm missing a gem here. I don't remember why. Like I said, not perfectly optimized. So quickly we'll look at the tree. We have some max res here. We're grabbing life everywhere we can. A little bit of AoE, some damage. We have one large cluster where we take widespread destruction, prismatic heart, and cremator. None of these are mandatory. They're all just decent damage and they enable the mediums. Fan the Flames help our ignites spread, and then Wasting Affliction is good damage. Here we have Towering Threat for life, and Assert Dominance that gives us more AoE for our Explodes, and more AoE for our Meteor and our Righteous Fire. We have Elemental Overload. It's pretty easy to keep this up because of this. Increased critical strike chance if you haven't dealt a crit recently. I have 2 of these, so almost 200% crit chance if I haven't crit recently, which puts us at about 25% crit chance. So Elemental Overload lasts 8 seconds. So you crit, and then you have 8 seconds of uptime, and after 4 seconds, our crit chance goes back up to 25%, and we're hitting often enough where you're gonna have decent uptime while mapping and very good uptime on bosses. The rest of our charms, max fire, max fire, max fire. We also have a chance to cover rare or unique enemies in Ash for 10 seconds on hit. Now, on hit includes all of our hits. That includes our Flame Surge and our Void Sphere from our Arcanist brand. It includes things like shield charging in or frost blinking. So between that and our Firestorm, we have pretty good uptime of Herald of Ash on single targets. But we do get to 90 all max res. You need all 6 of these, unfortunately, to get to 90 res. But this build feels incredibly tanky. I'm a little bit overkill here on chaos res. That is just lazy gearing. Again, I want to stress that this build is not super optimized and that it could definitely take improvements. But if you want to do boss rushing or you want to play a play style where you are exploding things, this is really, really a fun build to play. I got a lot of mileage out of it. I've been wanting to play a Chieftain spellcaster, but didn't really know what to do. And I kind of went into this blind, but ended up having a ton of fun. What you could do is, I have a lot of life nodes. I have a lot of like hanging life nodes here, here, here. What you could do is you could change the pathing up a little bit and go for another large cluster over here. And that's going to give you the opportunity to get some more damage. I'd say take this base and kind of do with it what you will. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions on this build, you can stop by my Twitch, twitch.tv/AER0___. I'm going to be live right after this video. We are playing Dual Strike of Ambidexterity CI Trickster right now, which is a ton of fun. I've already killed some Ubers with it, so I'm pretty excited about that. If you want to check that build out, definitely stop by the channel. If you want to support me, you can like this video, give it a comment, and subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for all your support. I will see you over on the Twitch. And as always, take care.